here on a number of different platforms all at the same time, sharing a little bit of knowledge about immigration, this whole world of COVID-19, and it's really a live immigration, Canadian immigration Q&A, open for all of you who are tuning in live to forward your questions, to post comments. Now it's going to be a little bit tricky here because we will have a bunch of people who are connecting through a number of different platforms. We are trying to go live on the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube and Facebook page, as well as the Express Entry Law private Facebook page. And just for good measure, because Holthe Immigration Law has our new Twitter account, we're trying out Periscope. So I'd love for you to post comments as to where you're tuning in from. I'm going to be going slowly through each of these locations to try to see if I can actually find the comments easily. We're going to do what we can, and this is actually really cool. So I didn't think this was going to be possible, but you'll see here what I can do now. So Sissy says, hello, Mark. So this is actually I didn't expect this. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to actually post individuals' comments directly on the screen for all of you to see. And this is a super pleasant development. You can see here, I also have the ability to show where they're tuning in from. So Zuleka, hi, can you hear me? I can indeed. And you can see here we have Musa, who is connecting in from Kuwait. And this is a new feature that I'm also able to pull in just to make these just a little bit better. So I'm super excited about that, really excited about that. So we'll see how this materializes, but the fact I'm actually pulling in people from Facebook and from YouTube is great. So let's see who else we have here. We've got Nilesh is Sudbury. We've got Ambikea says, hi, Mark, as you can all see here. So I'll try to post some of these as we go forward. It's great to have people connected. Baraket says, hey, Mark, can you play the violin and cheer us up for a second? Are you kidding me, guys? I actually this morning just started working on this violin that one of my clients gave me. And boy, you know what? While people are tuning in, I want you to post where you're listening in from, which is really, really important for me as we wait for more people to join. Well, you can see the comments now. When you post them, I'll actually pull them up, which is really neat. And I think it'll be really helpful for people who are watching on cross platforms. I'll hold off on pulling out the violin this time because I really want to get connected with all of you so that we can get right to the questions as quickly as possible. But so we've got Loy here says, hi, Mark. Sai says, hi, Mark from YouTube. This is really cool. Let's see who else we have here. Darko is joining us. So make sure you post in the comments, everyone, where you're tuning in from, okay? And I know that not all platforms, I don't think anybody, it'll be really rare to see someone on Periscope that's tuning in. That would be really cool. Okay, let's see who else we have. Harry is Konnichiwa from Kelowna, BC. Hi, Harry. Let's see who else we have. Saima here is Saudi Arabia. We've got Fran from Malta. Nice little happy face. You can see this is way better. This is really cool. And I want you guys to know there's going to be a little bit of weirdness, I guess, when people start to post questions. So some of the questions, when they're longer, I know that they're going to be taking up more space. So for instance here, Red is already firing out a question. I'm going to have you guys hold off on your questions for now, and then we'll pull those up. But there's definitely looks like Facebook has taken over. Facebook has got a few more hits on here than other places. Welcome, Franco from Argentina. It's great to have you joining us here on the Canadian Immigration Live Q&A. But yeah, continue to post where you're from, and I'll try to pop these comments up. But I absolutely love this. It is so, so cool. Nevea is joining in from the UAE. Welcome, Nevea. So yeah, thanks, guys, for tuning in. It's interesting now with my family, I'm past the 3-week kind of, self-isolation period. And so, you get this feeling, oh, I just want to go out. But the reality is we still need to be practicing, everything from social distancing to all those other things. And so next week, I just want to let everybody know that I'm probably not going to be doing any live Q&As next week, because I'm going to take my family and we're going to go out to Waterton. Now, I may try to do just a short little impromptu connection. I shouldn't say Waterton, out to the cabin, because all the national parks are closed. But we're just going to go out there and just get out of the city and just spend some time. And so probably next week, I'm not going to be doing a live Q&A in this type of fashion, but it's wonderful. It's so neat. Okay, now while we're starting here, we've got a pretty good group of people that have tuned in, which is great. Let's see who else we have here. Diamond is from Toronto. Welcome, Diamond. It's great to have you. And we have Muhammad is from Pakistan. So we've got a really good group of people here. And I apologize if I pass by your comment. I'm doing the best I can to facilitate this. Those of you who are on the Express Entry Law private Facebook page or private Facebook group, it's possible that your comments may not be coming through here. So I'm going to need to monitor that. I had some issues with comments being my ability to post them live when I was previously broadcasting through the Express Entry Law private Facebook group. Let's see. Michelle here is here from Kenya. And yes, I am well and safe. Thank you so much. Okay, so as we're going forward, like I said, I've got a few questions that I promised on Tuesday that I would get to that were sent in via email. And so we'll address a few of those. And then I want to take time. I want to make time to make sure that those of you who are tuning in live here get lots of time. Okay, I think that sounds pretty good. All right, and then we've got Thota here as well from the USA. Welcome tuning in, Thota. And you can see we've got pretty heavy Facebook domination here. So we did have a few there from YouTube. So if you're watching live on YouTube, make sure you post comments. I'd love to show you guys that you're just as strong as the Facebook folks. Okay, so those who are on the Express Entry Law private Facebook group, I'm just communicating with Igor, and it looks like your comments are not being able to be displayed. So it may just be best for us to continue doing it through the Canadian Immigration Institute, and that way your comments will be visible. So anyone that's on the Express Entry Law private Facebook group, just slide over to the Canadian Immigration Institute, and then your comments and questions will be visible, because otherwise it's going to be pretty hard for me to flip back and forth. All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to start off with just a few questions that came in before via email, and then we'll shift to the live one. So if you have got a live question, make sure that you hold off so that we'll get to it as soon as I let you know it's good to go. All right. As always, I want to start off by wishing all of you guys wellness, just safety, that your families are being kept safe from this virus. And I just hope that as you are hunkering down in your homes, that you're finding new ways to draw closer to your families, to your children, to your spouses, to those that you are rooming with, whoever it is, that we've got an opportunity now to just reconnect in a very human way. And I've found this time absolutely precious for me and my family, and to spend time amazing. It's just amazing having meals, breakfast, lunch and supper and dinner, I guess, here in I was raised to call it supper, but anyways, breakfast, lunch and dinner. And it never would have happened before, because my kids scatter to the four winds. They're out with lessons and sports and everything else, friends. And it's so nice to have everybody home. So, and I'm sure many of you feel that same way. Okay, all right, guys. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to start with some of the questions. I'm going to actually flip my screen around so that you guys can see the questions that I am asking. Let's see if we've got, okay, yeah, I think you can see it all good. We'll make it a little bit larger. Okay, so we're going to start here. This question, I think Mohammed, I'm not sure if we got to this one. Okay, so Mohammed says, hello, Mark. I have a query regarding proof of funds. As my spouse gets a new name after marriage, all the documents like the passport, national ID card, changed and updated with the new name. But the point is, as she's receiving her salary in her previous account, which shows an old name, does it create an issue? We visited the bank, but they refused to update her name and suggest that you should open a new account. Kindly help me out of this query. Okay, Mohammed, you really don't need to worry so much about this. And, there's name changes all the time. And all you have to do, and this is probably a little bit easier, make it easier for people to see Mohammed's question here, to make it a whole lot easier, for immigration, basically when people have name changes, they just accept a letter of explanation. So you don't have to stress over this. Explain and show the documents. Obviously, your marriage, if she takes your name, there's not going to be an issue with that at all. So don't worry about it. Just make sure you explain it in your letter of explanation. You have to make sure that you're identifying things, and don't just make assumptions. Don't ever do that, because immigration, they are not not good when it comes to you expecting them to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. You need to make sure that you are actually explaining things to them. So as long as you explain the whole shift, they're going to be able to see, yeah, your spouse got married, she changed her name, and there's the old passport, there's the new passport. So that's kind of what I do when I have those situations. Great question. Okay. All right. So next we've got Vidit, and Vidit says, "Hi, Mark. As you know, a lot of foreign workers have been laid off right now." Yeah. And many of them are planning to take EI. Do you think it might have any negative effect if somebody an express entry application is in process, or if someone is planning to apply for a P&P application in the future? No, you do whatever you need to do. You've paid into employment insurance. And so if you got temporarily laid off, when it comes to EI, you go ahead and you go claim it. And don't hesitate. Don't worry about that. You're laid off and you can't control that. Ultimately, the effect that it has on express entry and on the P&P application, we are still waiting to get instructions from immigration as to how kind they're going to be. I'm going to flip back here so you guys can see me. We just really don't know exactly how they're going to treat situations. Now, obviously, if you have an employer who says, "I've laid Vidit off temporarily and I will be hiring Vidit right back on once the self-isolation and the mandatory closures are over," that's going to be a whole lot different than someone who had a job offer, and because of COVID-19, that company has crashed. It doesn't exist anymore. There's no job. In those situations, yeah, you could very well see your opportunity to stay in Canada slip away from you if you no longer have those job offers. And that's a reality that people need to understand. But at this time, we don't know to what extent immigration is going to, show leniency. But we have to assume that when people are affected by this and their companies are willing to fully hire them back on, and they still have that ability to economically establish in Canada, then you're probably going to be okay. But we just don't know 100%. All right, let's flip back to our next question. Okay, so the next question here is from Sharon, and he says, "Hi, Mark. I am not sure if you're aware or not, but IRCC has instructed all the doctors to stop conducting medical exams in Canada. I tried booking one today, but the doctor's office told me about it. Do you recommend sending EAPR without medicals and then submitting it later on? Or should this only be done if one's ITA is about to expire and there are no other options?" Well, I can actually tell you, Sharon, that the doctors have been instructed now to start doing medicals again. So there was a time period, and I'm just going to go into my Outlook here, and bear with me. I know many of you are probably thinking to yourself, "Mark, what are you doing?" I'm going through my emails here because there was actually, I'll just do a quick search and see if I can find it. There was indication and notifications about the changes with respect to medicals. And so understand that the doctors now, and they told us in our meeting on Tuesday as well, that doctors have been instructed to start doing those medical exams again. And so just give me 1 second here and see if I can find it. I'm trying to remember the indication that I had. Just give me a second, see if I can find an exact date. Not sure if I can, actually. We'll see here. Okay, I can't. I've got so many emails. If you guys had any idea how many emails I had that were pumping through this whole system, oh my goodness. It's hard to keep track of everything. Okay, so flipping back here. So understand that yes, there's a temporary pause, but watch out, because the doctors, there will be some that are going to start doing it again. Okay. All right. Next one. Oh, and I want to give, I have to do this, guys. I have to do this. I'm going to flip my screen back, and I absolutely have to put this one on there. Woo! Check it out. I'm in. Liberi Forti. Awesome. We have a comment from someone on Periscope. That's actually really cool. Very, very cool. And shout out to Steve Hands too, right here. Hello, sir. Okay, I'll jump back and I'll highlight all of you folks that are posting comments, but hold off for now, and we'll just go through these current comments that we have. I'll go through a few more, and then we'll flip over and start answering your live questions. Okay. All right. So there's Sharon. Okay, next question here. This one is from Dr. Ragda. Thank you for all your informative videos, and I'm really grateful to the EE guide doing it yourself, as it clarified a lot of things to me. Oh, I'm glad. I'm really, really glad. What Dr. Ragda is referring to is, if I just pull up my other screen here, yeah, I've got a bunch of things going on here. Even tutorials on how to make all this stuff work, but that's okay. I don't care. This is, like I said, as always, this is not some fancy show. This is just all about, it's all about content. Those of you, if you want to go to the CanadianImmigrationInstitute.com, you can go right here and you'll see that I have my course, the Express Entry Step-by-Step course to doing it yourself. And you can learn more about it right here. And we'll just post right in here, copy. And let me see, I'm not even sure if I can do it on here with the comment section. Oh, I guess I'll have to have Igor post that comment, post the link in the comment section. I do have one limitation, which appears to be responding, just because, for the simple reason, I guess, that all of these comments are coming in from all over. So this Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step course to doing it yourself, you can access it here. And Igor, why don't you post the coupon, okay? So I'm gonna have Igor post the coupon. And in the past, we had a little bit of a fun time. And you know what? As I'm going through this and answering these questions and just kind of flipping back and forth all over the place as I'm trying to add value for you guys, this question right here that was shared by Dr. Ragda 2 weeks ago, we had a special little promotion, a little challenge. And this should be really fun. So those of you who are watching, whether Facebook, YouTube, even Periscope, here's what I want you to do. And we're going to have a little bit of fun with this again. The question is, take a look behind me right here. I want you guys to tell me where I'm broadcasting from today. It's a beautiful river right here off to my left here. And this, I would love to go there and check this out in person. But I want you guys to tell me where this is. I want to know the city or the town and the country. You need both of those. The first 3 people to give me the correct answer will get a free access to my course. And for those of you who have not really seen much about the course, just to let you understand, if you click on purchase, the access that I'm giving away, one-time payment, is $497 US. So I'm going to give away 3 free accesses to my course to the first 3 people that are able to give me the correct answer. And I'll let Igor manage it, and he can let you guys know. It looks like we may have some people attempting to give correct answers. So we'll see. We'll let Igor. And if you've already won in the past, okay, remember, if you have already won in the past, then you're not eligible to participate in this one. So we'll work through that. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Okay, we'll keep progressing forward here, and we'll have some fun and see who responds. And the first 3, like I said, that have not otherwise won before will get 3 free accesses to the course. Okay, shifting back here. Now, Dr. Ragda says, I have a question regarding the work experience. I hope you can give an answer so that I can continue my application. I have 4 years of work experience in the same NOC for the same employer, but between these years, I have 2 maternity leave periods. So does this 4 years consider continuous while doing the 67 points? Or should I take only the longer continuous period without maternity leave, which is 2 years? Any information is highly appreciated. Take care and stay safe at home. So I'll tell you really quickly here, Dr. Ragda, that yes, you need to make sure that you have at least a minimum of 1 year continuous full time. But for the purposes of calculating the 67 points, whether you have 2 years or 3 years, that's irrelevant. So the points grid goes 1 year, then 2 to 3 years. And so it depends on how many points you need. But they do not typically accept maternity leave when you're actually off, not working, In most cases, people are not getting paid either when they're on maternity leave. If you're not actually working for that length of time, then they don't count that as being continuous work experience. So you usually can't count that. But I will tell you, Dr. Ragda, that every person's situation is different. And it's really, really hard to know 100% what the best option is for which block of work experience to claim without reviewing everything. So generally speaking, large blocks of maternity leave time where you're actually away from work, caring for your newborn child, that time period is traditionally not considered as continuous employment for the purposes of the Federal Skilled Worker Program. But understand, it depends on the circumstances of each person. So I recommend, Dr. Ragda, that you consider booking a consultation if you'd like to get clarification on that. We can look at everything a lot more closely. But whether you take an unpaid leave, even paid leaves, I remember we had in one of our express entry panels that I was on a few years back, we asked that question about people, for instance, who go home, let's say back to the Philippines from Canada to visit family for over a month. And the question was always answered with, was the person still paid? So unpaid leaves, no, you can't count that as work experience. And paid leaves, it really comes down to the time away. Okay, so take that into consideration, and when you're going forward, and understand that it's really important to make sure that you can satisfy every single thing that the government wants, and that there's no room for any discretion. You don't want someone else deciding on your on the questions that you basically you don't want to allow the officers to have any discretion when they're making decisions on whether or not to approve your application. You want to limit all discretion by giving them exactly what they want. Okay, we've got a bunch of comments that came in here, and we'll see. I think Igor is going to try to track those for us and make sure that we have enough people. Remember, if you have not yet been successful, then you will need to pass on the free. Sorry, if you haven't been successful in winning one of the draws in the past, then you're eligible. If you have, you need to give up your spot so that the next person who has not had an opportunity to win free access can claim it. All right, so keep posting comments if you're unsure what it is. I don't know how many people we have here that have posted at this stage, but you definitely want to be quick and get your comments in, because some of these people who are ahead may otherwise have already won in the past. Okay, all right. It's hard to kind of stay on top of things, isn't it? There's a lot going on. That's all right. As long as you guys are patient with me, as understand there's a lot of moving things going on my screen right now. So it's hard to stay focused and also try to be concise and organized in how I'm running these live Q&As. But thank you for your patience. All right. Okay, it is now time for you guys to post your live questions. So post your questions in the comment section, whether you're Facebook, whether you are YouTube, whether you are really Periscope even now, which is really cool. And remember that we have a bunch of other resources as we're transitioning to people posting their comments now, which you can do that. I want to remind you all that we have a number of resources that we've put out there to help you. And I'm just going to go through some of those as we wait for people to connect in. And I'm just going to type them in manually every step of the way. So obviously, we're in the process of building out a number of courses. But to start with, we have 2 courses that are available on the Canadian Immigration Institute. Obviously, Express Entry, and then we have another one called the LMIA course for high wage positions. And so these 2 courses are currently available for purchase, but we have a ton of other free stuff. So we also have, which many of you probably know about, but maybe you don't, which is the Canadian Immigration Podcast. And this is where I have invite other lawyers across the country to join me to talk about various aspects of immigration. And so there's a ton of previous content, and it's really, really good. The lawyers that come and join me are at the top of their game. They're just well respected across the country, just leaders in our field. And so I've been so grateful for them to join me. Then it's our page, our actual Holthe immigration law page. And I love this little spread the message, stop the virus thing at the bottom of the page. You'll have to check that out on your own handhelds or desktops. And it's just a neat little reminder. And, I think we're all trying to do our part to just curb this COVID-19. And then here in our page is the blog section. So you definitely want to go here and you want to check out these blogs. The first one is about employment insurance and then your eligibility to claim it as a foreign worker. And then the other one is all about the travel restrictions. And Susan, this one was produced by Susan Wood, one of my associate lawyers. And this is a living document. So if you're wondering about, can I travel? Are there any restrictions? This is a great location to go. She's got links that are updated frequently, including at the end, she goes through who can travel, who can't. And then there's very, very good specific links that are here. And there's a section right at the end that covers off all of these links just to make it easier for you to find them. So check out that blog post, and there will be more blog posts coming in the future. Okay, but you think, okay, is that it, Mark? No, it's not. So those of you who are actually watching on YouTube, I think you guys all probably want to know where else we're broadcasting. So some of you are watching right here on the Canadian Immigration Institute Facebook page. And you can see this group here is just a phenomenal little group. It's got about, well, what has it got here? It's got about 33,000 followers, which is pretty cool for a Facebook page. And then also those of you who are on Facebook, I want you to know that all of the videos that we do are also made available. Oh, it looks like we got Igor's page here. So I'll have to log him out and log him in. We were doing some beta testing for the courses, but the YouTube channel for the Canadian Immigration Institute is another location you can go. And not only that, I don't even know what we have here. We've got so many different things. We're also on Twitter. So we've got a Twitter home for our Canadian Immigration Institute. And I'll flip this page over here so you can see. So our Canadian Immigration Institute also has our Facebook page. And so we welcome you to follow us. And then we also have, well, you know what? We have an Instagram as well, but I'll stop talking about all those other things because at the end of the day, we're everywhere. And that's the goal, is to try to spread this as far reaching as we possibly can. Okay, let's slip over here and let's start looking at some of the questions. Okay, and this is the fun part, really. So we'll pull this one up here. All right, so this one here is Loy. And Loy says, for financial records, my situation, I'm currently employed with a Canadian employer in NOC B. Okay. Okay. And he says that my money is in stocks in Canada, which has dropped in value. Yeah. Would immigration consider the book value? And since I am employed, does the 12,000 requirement applicable for me? Okay. So what I tell you right now, Loy, is that if you're in Canada and you're drawn under the Canadian Experience class, you actually don't need to worry about proof of funds. So if you're eligible under the Canadian Experience class, you do not need to provide proof of funds. So this question about stocks doesn't even apply. And for those of you who are tuning in and you're wondering, okay, well, I am not going to be drawn under the CEC and much of my money is in stocks and the value has dropped. Well, you do need to be concerned about that because it's the amount of money that is available, liquid available to settle in Canada. And if your stocks have taken a big dive and you are not able to liquidate it to the amount of Canadian dollars that you would need, then that could very well be a problem for you. But for you, Loy, I don't think you've got much of an issue. Okay, Sanjana says, hi, I was here on a Francophone program. My first day of work was January the 3rd. Is there any way I can get my PR? Do I need to wait for a year? Okay, Sanjana, this is a perfect question that really would require a paid consultation. So there's a number of factors at play with eligibility for PR, and we need to canvass everything to see what options might be available. Within the Francophone program, I don't even know what province you're in. And so I recommend, Sanjana, that you reach out, book a paid consultation, and any who are watching, it's pretty simple to do that. You just go to our firm website right here, and then in the top, there is a Start Here button. And then you just basically fill in the information here to tell us exactly what your issue is and to help us to make sure that you're getting the best direction and, basically to get that consult booked as soon as possible, because I know how important it is for you guys to get the answers you need now. Okay, let's check out the next one that we have here. Okay, actually, I will pull this one. Special shout out to all of those people in Spain who are battling the coronavirus. And I know how, we see the news reports, but I can't imagine what it would be like to be on the ground. I think we've already broadcasted from Italy. I'm trying to remember if we did or not. But all of those countries that are so hard hit, and even the US, our friends and neighbors to the south, we know that you are fighting, right in the thickest trenches of this virus. And for the rest of you all over the world, stay home. Just stay home. You don't need to go out. If you need to do so, practice every measure to protect yourself and those around you as much as possible. If we all do our part, we can get through this. We sure can. All right, so Sunil, yes, identified Toledo, Spain. And so I'll let Igor determine who are the winners. Okay, Anshu says, will there be a federal skilled worker draw anytime soon? Well, you guys saw. So the draws, let's take a look here, and I'll flip my screen around again so that you guys can see this. So the best way to search for them, if I go here, is just to go to EE, and you can put draws, you can put rounds of invitations, doesn't matter, whatever. It should give you express entry rounds of invitations. And so many people were waiting and waiting to see what would happen. The last draw, you can see right here, April the 9th, right here, okay? And so you can see number of invitations issued were only 606. Why is that? And so, today, if we look today, today is April the 9th. So this draw just came, I can't even see when it was actually last updated. This is April the 9th. So just today, you can see that there's been a draw. And so people will ask the question, all right, is there going to be draws? Well, we don't know what's going to happen with the Federal Skilled Worker Program. But one thing we do know, you can see right here, Provincial Nominee Program, right there. Number of invitations issued was only 606. Okay. And so these are candidates that came through the express entry streams of the various provincial nominee programs. And that's why the lowest ranked individual was 698 points. And it's kind of amazing to think about it. What this means is that someone who had a nomination from a province only had 98 points otherwise, because they got 698. They got 600 points because of the nomination. So at this stage, we know that obviously the draws are still happening, but in this case, what we are lacking is the Federal Skilled Worker Program. So this draw, April the 9th today, was just for provincial nominee programs, those that are participating in express entry. And if we go to previous rounds here and we pull it up, you can see here the last one before that was March the 23rd. And that one was the Canadian Experience class only. So people in Canada only. And when you look at the actual lowest ranked score, you can see it dropped down to 467. And so I had some of my clients, and you know who you are. I'm so very, very happy for you guys. But you were able to, so I'll move that out of the way. You were able to get an ITA when we weren't sure if it was ever going to happen again. So there has been some benefits that have come from this, tragedy that we're going through for some people who may not have otherwise qualified. So, and then before that, you can see here, then this no program specified, that usually means that then it's open for anyone, whether you're PNP, whether you're the Federal Skilled Worker Program or CEC. So it is back to March 18th was the last time that we had a Federal Skilled Worker Program draw. So, so the question that Anshu had posted here is a very valid one. And at this stage, we don't know if they're going to cease Federal Skilled Worker draws and only go CEC and only go the PNPs. We just don't know. I think at this stage it's too early to tell, but I'll be honest, it is nice to see that the draws are still happening. The rounds of invitations are still occurring. So monitor that, watch it, and we will see how it plays out. Great question. Very good. Okay. Okay, and Steve has got quite the answer here. He says, the Alcazar of Toledo is a stone fortification located in the highest part of Toledo, Spain. Yes, indeed. Okay, and we've got a bunch of other people. We're going to skip through them. Now, if you have a very, very long question that's multiple parts, you have to understand that I'm not going to pull it up because it will basically dominate my whole screen. You have to keep your questions concise and small. And if you do that, then I will pull them and I will answer them. If you have this long convoluted question, usually that tells me it's more specific and it's something that you probably should book a paid consult so that we can go through it. We can take time to look at it. So if you have a long, large question like you did, Diamond, with multiple parts, you need to just pick something out small and repost it. Okay. All right. Okay. So Emily, let's see. So Emily says, "Hi Mark, I'm in New Zealand on lockdown and can't have the medical done. What should I do regarding the ITA?" Okay, well, this is a pretty simple answer. So we know right now that the government, Express Entry, they are extending the time period for ITAs to respond up to 90 days. We're waiting to see what they're going to be doing and what's going to happen for those people who reach the end of that 90-day extension and are still unable to get their medicals. Now, like I just said, the officers are now, at least immigration is now instructing panel physicians. I guess they have discretion to decide what they're going to do, but some are now able to do immigration medicals. So it just depends on the location you're at, or they should be very shortly. So we'll have to monitor that. Emily, I don't know exactly when your ITA is going to expire, but this is the advice that I'm giving my clients. If an ITA is going to be expiring, then I go ahead and I submit my EAPR with every other document that's absolutely mandatory. And the ones that I can't get through no fault of my own, like an immigration medical, I make a note of it in the system. In the spot where I upload my e-medical, I provide a very detailed explanation that says, please note, I'm unable to obtain medicals at this time. The moment I'm able to, I will book an appointment, I will get it done, and I will forward the immigration medical to you. And so I don't want to lose my ITA. I don't want it to be canceled because I've missed the expiry date. But that is how I do it. You have to be careful how you're wording this. I refer back to instructions that are given by IRCC. I go back to the government website. I pull up their directives, their program delivery instructions, and I actually embed those within my application so that the officer knows that I know that they should know that they should show some mercy and kindness in these volatile, unpredictable times. Okay, so great question, Emily. That was awesome. All right, next question is from Hashim. And Hashim says, if you win Express Entry, can you bring your partner if you are not married? Okay, so I think what you're asking is if you have a common law partner and you receive your permanent residence through Express Entry, can you then sponsor them? The short answer is it depends. Sometimes people have lived common law for so long that it's clear they're spouses. There's no question about it. Or other individuals may be able to qualify through what we call a conjugal relationship, where you have all of the indicia, all of the same things that a married couple will have, but you're physically prevented from living together. Maybe it's the travel restrictions. Maybe it's because of religious complications in various countries and the fact you can't actually live together because of conflicting religious values and things like that. And so all of those factors have to be taken into consideration. It is possible. The answer is yes, it's possible. But you have to be very, very careful. And there are a whole bunch of things that you have to look at when you're trying to build your argument to show that you are spouses, notwithstanding the fact that you're not married. So, yeah. So same thing, Hashim, your situation here, great question. And it really depends on the individual. So, all right, good question. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Okay, I love this. I never know. I never know what these individuals' names actually are, but now I can give a shout out and say thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Guys, this would be really boring with me just blithering on and talking. Now, to some extent, my podcast is like that. So if we go back to the Canadian Immigration Podcast, you'll see that this episode right here, actually, I encourage you to listen to it. It's entitled, What is Going On with Canadian Immigration? This podcast episode is me sharing my own thoughts on the world of immigration, having been working in the trenches, as I indicate here, for so many years. So I'd encourage you to go. You can subscribe on iTunes, and I'm going to be releasing more podcasts and just more content in all kinds of different forms. So just keep that in mind. All right. So thank you for your time, whoever you are, because I can't read that language. Okay, let's see who we have next here. This is really fun. This is so much better. Okay, Kawaja, although me trying to now pronounce the names when everybody else can see how they're spelled is also quite comical, especially when I'm not sure if you're a man or a woman, and sometimes the names are pretty generic. And so I never know. Now, generally, if it has an A on the end, I have a tendency to kind of assume you're that you're a woman, but there's there's no guarantee I'm going to pronounce your name properly. So I apologize for that. Okay. Do we need to declare? So Kawaja says, do we need to declare spouse work experience as you don't get any points for it? No, Kawaja, you do not need to declare it in the work history section. I never ever include that, because if you do, and well, let me qualify this. I better be careful. This is the danger sometimes of providing general advice. So you have to be very careful with what you say. And that's why many of my colleagues across the country aren't crazy enough to answer live questions like I am. I'm just too reckless, I guess, that I'm not concerned if I'm giving incorrect advice. Either that, or I'm so confident in my ability that I just don't believe I'm going to be doing it. Maybe it's the latter or the former. I don't know. Maybe I'm just naive, but I don't care, because my sole goal here is to help all of you. All right. So Kawaja says, do we need to declare spouse work experience? So there's two kinds of work experiences. If your spouse is with you in Canada, Canadian experience is definitely work experience for a spouse is definitely worth points, and you absolutely 10 points, in fact. So a maximum of 10 points. You definitely want to include that. If it's foreign work experience for an accompanying spouse, no, I do not include it in the work history section for the spouse. But remember, I absolutely do include it in the personal history section of your spouse, where you list what that spouse has done for the past 10 years. You're going to include everything in there. And I want you guys to also know that if you go to my YouTube channel, there will be, I wonder if I can just Google it. Sometimes that's always interesting. Okay, let's see if this post has got enough. I called it Heartbreaking Immigration Story, I think. Let's see if I can do this. And then I'll do, maybe I'll put in Holthe. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, is it Canadian? Oh, here it is, right here. Ah, okay. Google's smart. It found it. So I'd encourage you to go here. Oh, that's actually reposted through my LinkedIn page, it looks like. Okay, so let's do this. We'll call this Canadian Immigration Institute. And this is a good example, because I have not done a very good job of connecting Mark Holthe to what this Canadian Immigration Institute is. And I think in the beginning, the reason I didn't do it is because it wasn't about promoting myself. It was just about sharing information. And so this is kind of annoying. Basically, this one right here, Heartbreaking Immigration Story, maybe, Igor, you can post a link to this YouTube video that I did with someone who made the mistake of not listing their spouse's work experience in their personal history section. So instead of not listing it in the work history, which is totally fine, they then put unemployed in the personal history section. And it could have had absolutely disastrous consequences. And how did it arise? Because one of their friends submitted, they did it the exact same way and indicated that the spouse had no work experience, that they were unemployed, when of course they were. And that friend got their application approved and they were in Canada, even though they had put the wrong information in that wasn't true. They thought that's how they needed to do it, so that they didn't have to submit reference letters. They didn't understand that if you submit something in the personal history section, you don't have to include documents to support that information. And so you don't have to waste your time doing something that isn't providing any value to you or the officers. But in the case of the clients, excuse me, who contacted me for a consultation, they got a fairness letter. They got a request from immigration to provide a CV or a resume showing work history. And of course, then they realized that what they put in the personal history for the spouse was actually, well, it was incorrect and they shouldn't have done it that way. All right. Try to keep somewhat refreshed here. Okay. Let's see this one here. Okay, so Ahmad says, and maybe I can't really turn much here. This is an example of a bigger question. Let's see if we can shrink it down just a little bit here. It's kind of tiny. Ahmed says, if the university's internship program is paid service, then can it be included towards continuous job experience? As at the end of that internship program, I continued as full-time employee for another 9 months. Okay, so remember the key here, they don't care whether it's an internship, whether it's some kind of a probationary period. If you are paid, that's the key. If you're paid, if you meet all of the other requirements of the eligibility for federal skilled worker program, if that's where you're going for foreign work experience, within a paid internship, you can definitely count it. If you're working full-time or the equivalent in part-time, it's skilled work experience. You meet all the other standards, yeah, you can count it. That's totally fine. Just because it's an internship doesn't mean you have to exclude it. Okay, let's see here who we have next. We're getting questions that are a little bit longer. Okay, this is from Zulika. He says, hi Mark, I had a question regarding the proof of work experience. I'm currently working with a new online business, which is not registered with the authorities. Is it legitimate work experience, and what experience do I need? What evidence do I need? Zulika, this is one of those loaded questions that can really, really cause people problems. They have to have a means of independently verifying that the company you're working for exists. If it's not registered, then it's going to be tough for them to be able to do that. I'm assuming that the company has a website. I'm assuming that in that website that there are employees. Maybe those employees or the owners of it have LinkedIn accounts that also reference the existence of this business. And even in your situation, do you have a contract? How are you paid? So all of these things play a role into whether or not an immigration officer is going to accept it. Will they provide you with a reference letter? Do you have pay stubs? Okay, so it's not unlike anything else. But if you're working for a big publicly traded company like Amazon, and you've got a reference letter, you've got pay stubs, then obviously there's not going to be an issue. But if you're working from some company that has no presence anywhere, immigration can't find even if the company exists, you're going to have some challenges. So you might want to book a consult, Zulika, for us to explore it further. Otherwise, just really, really make sure you try to document everything in every way that you can. And part of the reasons I do the consults is because it allows me to be creative with you. I can kind of tease out some ideas that you maybe didn't realize existed just by our conversations that we have with those 25-minute consults. So go ahead and consider that, Zulika. Otherwise, yeah, you need to work really hard. Okay. Thoda says, staying outside Canada and working for a Canadian employer remotely, will this be counted for future PR status renewal? Staying outside of Canada and working for a Canadian employer remotely, Thoda, it really comes down to how that relationship started. If you're stuck outside because through no fault of your own and an inability to travel, you may still be okay, provided you then return as quickly as possible. And being paid and continue to work remotely, I think there's a very, very good argument. I, as an immigration lawyer, I would fight tooth and nail for you if the only reason that you were working outside of Canada was because you couldn't return due to travel restrictions and COVID-19. If you were working for that company before, if you had a valid work permit and you just can't return for whatever reason, then I would fight tooth and nail. But understand, these are different times. These are difficult times. These are challenging times. And everybody is trying to sort out what the best thing to do is. And immigration, the Canadian government, is no different. They're doing the best they can to try to make decisions that are fair, that protect the Canadian labor force, as well as that are fair to all of you foreign workers, students, and and permanent resident hopefuls that have sunk so much time, energy into making Canada your home, both temporarily and permanently. And you're valued. And but we're in a whole different world now, and immigration is having to sort that out. All right. Okay, next question. Okay, let's see if we can get this one for Nilesh. It's a little bit big. In the last live Q&A, you mentioned IRCC is encouraging postgrad work permit holders to apply for extensions. When I tried to do the questionnaire, I was asked if I have an LMIA, which I don't, but should I still answer yes so that I can process application? My postgrad work permit expires in July 2020. By the way, I have an EE profile which is expiring May 18th and currently in process of applying to Sudbury Rural Northern Immigration Pilot Program. Okay, so Nilesh, with your question here, I'll just pop this down. There are a number of ways to tackle this, and how you answer the questions on the online form in order to be able to extend your work permit, well, that depends entirely on every single person. Now, when you're going through that process, I can't take the time and flip my screen around and try to walk through it. It's just not feasible, not possible. But when we say extend your postgrad work permit, yes, immigration has said, well, you can't extend your postgrad work permit. It has to be a legitimate application that's supported by an employer. And maybe that employer is in the process of trying to get an LMIA. Maybe they're not. But in your situation, because everything is kind of locked down, they don't want people falling out of status. They have encouraged people to submit extension applications. Now, how you go about doing that, there's a number of ways to deal with that. I often will consider applying if there is no pathway, if there is no LMIA waiting for me, if my employer isn't willing to do that. And you guys all know how likely it is for a Canadian employer right now in many, many industries to be able to show that they can't find a Canadian or permanent resident to do the job. That's going to be a real tough thing to do. And so if they're in a position where they really do want to keep you, but they don't know what the circumstances are like, things may change once COVID-19 and these restrictions are lifted. Things may change. The economy maybe will just pick up, 100 miles an hour, but we don't know. So at this stage, you do have the ability to apply. What that gives you is implied status to continue working or to basically maintain your status in Canada. And so when you ask the question here about what if you don't have an LMIA, how do I answer the question? I can't actually answer that because when I do my applications, I explore other avenues for securing extensions to work permits. And some of those avenues include the C10 significant benefit work permit. And I may very well do I'm trying to think about strategies and things that you can do. But I like that because it actually results in a person having the ability to extend their work permit legitimately. Now, in every situation, if you are trying to use the C10 option, you need to have an employer who's willing to participate with you in that and willing to go through the process and do the employer portal registration. If you're trying to just extend an existing open work permit, then there has not been a lot of guidance on how to do that. And in all honesty, I'm still working through it myself. So Nilesh, I recommend you book a consult. We can look at it. We can consider the options. We can take a serious look at how you're doing it. Remember, I really prefer for my clients to submit their applications through their own MyCIC portals so that they have control. What I prefer is to actually help people in a supportive way, collaboratively, screen sharing, going through everything together, and then you take control of your application. That's kind of how we do it. So you're in a difficult situation like many people, Nilesh. All I know at this stage is that the government has said, apply to extend, and if you don't have a job offer, you can perfect it later. And that's the theory. So if you do have to answer a question that in a way that isn't 100% true in order to get the application to go forward, then you need to make sure that you provide a detailed explanation letter as to why you had to answer the question the way you did, even though it wasn't correct. Okay. All right. And remember, if you've got a big, long questions, I'm not going to post those because they just don't work very well for this model. So if you have a big, long question in the comment section, make sure that you reduce it down and repost it. Okay, let's see. Hashim says, how much your consultation costs? Okay, you can easily just go to the site right at the very beginning, and you'll see here that it is $210, which includes our tax for a 25-minute consult. But don't be deceived. Those consults, actually, you have already sent me your information. I will have already looked at it before the consult. So that 25 minutes that you have here doesn't include my prep time. My prep time is in addition to that. And so 25 minutes is where we're talking specifically about your issues. We're giving you advice and direction that you can actually rely upon. And one thing I want to point out to all of you, when I have these consultations, one thing that sometimes happens is I say, you have no chance. You have no ability to stay in Canada long-term, or your chances of immigrating are non-existent. So do not waste your time anymore. And so understanding that when you have these consults, I will tell you the advice that you need to make plans for your life. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And I'm also not going to be there pushing you saying, oh, the only option you have is to is to hire me as your lawyer. No, I'm not going to. Do I believe that any person that retains our office to help them is going to have a better chance at getting things through than if they wager through on their own? Yeah, I believe that 100%. But my rule here, and especially with these live Q&As, is to help you, to provide answers to questions that just you can't find. And I have no problems giving an answer to one person that I know is going to benefit 1,000 other people. That's what really gives me my purpose. All right. Okay, so continuing on here, and we're doing pretty good. We've covered we've been this episode's we're just about closing in on an hour, which is really cool. It's been the first one that we've been able to do when we have with all these multiple platforms, and this is so cool. Now, Callum, this isn't. He goes, darn, there's a draw today, but was PNP only. Yes, I agree, Callum. I agree. We need another one. Okay. All right, let's jump back here to Ahmed. And he says, and if there is gaps in between jobs, and then there's a continuous job experience of 2.5 years, and then again out of job, my question is, will this affect my total number of years of job experience? And if the knock changes for different jobs, then what should I do? What you have to remember, Ahmed, is if you are outside of Canada, I'm assuming it's the Federal Skilled Worker Program. We'll make that assumption that you're outside of Canada. You need to meet the minimum eligibility requirements of the Federal Skilled Worker Program first. So that means they have their own point system, their own selection criteria that is based out of 67 points. And if you do that, and I'll just show you quickly, because I think other people who are new to this, probably if you just type in FSWP, well, it's probably easy for me because Google's so used to me searching this, but Federal Skilled Worker Program eligibility, when you search for that, it will then come up here, and you will see that in order to meet the eligibility requirements, remember, this has nothing to do with the comprehensive ranking system yet. And I'm just going to go in here, and I'm just going to kill Ahmed's little comment there so people can see. In this program, for eligibility, they have another factor here, selection factors, that mirror, in some cases, the comprehensive ranking system. And then you have to have a pass mark of 67 points out of the 100-point grid. These 6 factors right here, you have to calculate yourself. And the question really that's brought up when you're going through this process as a federal skilled worker is, do I need to show more than 3 years of foreign work experience? So if I'm going through here and I get to the work experience points, there's a maximum of 15 points. But it's calculated based on 1 year of experience, you get 9 points. 2 to 3 years is 11 points. And then 4 to 5, you can get another 2, and even 6 years, you can get another 2. So the reality is, if you need all 6 years, all 15 points to get the 67-point pass mark, then you have to find a way to have 6 continuous, uninterrupted years of work experience, all working in the same knock. So to meet the eligibility requirements under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, all of these years have to be continuous, full-time, the same job, paid, all those other factors, okay? But in your case, if you meet the 67-point threshold with only 3 years, then you don't need to provide any more. And I'll take it even one step further. If you meet the 67-point threshold with only 1 year of skilled work experience abroad, then you can take any other work experience outside of Canada in a skilled knock, so in another occupation, to make up the other 2 years, because with the comprehensive ranking system, once you hit 3 years of foreign work experience, you're maxed out. So if you meet the minimum eligibility requirements for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, what we've talked about here, so if you meet that 67-point threshold right here with only 1 year of continuous, full-time, skilled work experience in the same knock, then you can, for the purposes of and we'll put here, CRS criteria, we'll pull this up here, you can add to accumulate the rest of, and it really comes down to foreign work experience. It comes down to these skill transferability factors. And I'll go right down to the detailed section right here. Okay, so keep going. Okay, so this is the skill transferability factors. If you go to foreign work experience right here, you really get these bonus points when you can show you have at least 3 years or more. So once you hit 3 years and you have, for example, a CLB 9 in language, this is where most people really get those extra points. And that's why it's so critical that you have at least a CLB 9 in all, and that's a Canadian language benchmark of 9 on the IELTS test or the equivalent on the French language tests. The key here is for you to remember that once you hit 3 years, you don't really need to provide any more work experience. So going all the way back to the question that was posed here, and we'll pull this up again by Ahmed here. The key is if you can meet the minimum eligibility criteria for the Federal Skilled Worker Program with only 1 year of work experience, then you can add pieces, you can use different knocks for different jobs in continuous stretches, and add those all together to make that remaining 3 years of skilled work experience for the purposes of the comprehensive ranking system. All right. Okay, that was a long way to explain it, but I wanted to take the time to do it. Okay, let's see what we have here. This is funny. All right, Diamond was on top of it. He goes, yes, I won. Thank you, Mark. I hope you did. I hope you did. I'm not sure who else was responding. Because remember, you guys, there's people responding on other platforms as well. Okay, let's answer, see if we can answer this one from Jode. So Jode says, I'm unemployed for the last 7 months, but my total experience is 12 years, and it's been updated in my profile. I got an ITA from the PNP and a nomination after 5 months, and I'm unemployed at that time as well. Will I be eligible to have work experience points in the EE profile? It doesn't matter. You can count work experience all the way back 10 years. So it's the previous 10 years that they're looking at in terms of your work experience, if it's foreign work experience. When it comes to the Canadian experience class, that Canadian work experience only fits into the previous 3 years. So yeah, as long as you meet all of the other requirements, there's no issues with that. Okay, we've got these people thinking, hey, I won. We've got all these people posting. This is quite funny. That's awesome. Okay, Loy's back here. He says, for the intended work in Canada section, since I'm already employed, do I select no for the section that's asking me, does Loy have a job offer? Okay, the job offer part all relates to whether or not you have one of, well, really 3 things. 1, are you already working in Canada on an LMIA-based employer-specific work permit? So do you have an LMIA supporting your work experience? And is your employer offering you a job offer? Then in that case, and what I mean by job offer is they've already gone and got approval from Service Canada or ESDC to basically for an LMIA confirmation to support your work. If you are working under one of those LMIA-based work permits, then you would put yes if the employer is actually extending a job offer to you. The next one is if you're not in Canada and the employer has obtained a job offer approval through an LMIA to support your permanent residence. And then the final one is people who are on a work permit in Canada through one of our international agreements or one of our international competitiveness work permit categories like intercompany transfers, who have been working a year for the company on a named employer specific work permit. And they're also meeting the eligibility for job offers. So if you don't have any of those, if you're here on a post-grad work permit, your employer doesn't have an LMIA, then the answer to that question, do I have a job offer in Canada, is no. Many people get confused on that. All right. Let's see if we can get one here. Okay, so Emily, she confirms with her medical that you're not allowed in New Zealand still. Yeah, I understand that. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that that's going to open up for you, Emily. But I think I gave you the instructions there. If you run out of time, then you just submit, explain. Okay. Okay, and I think right now we're just crossed over an hour here. So I think I'm going to shut this down now for today. But I want to thank everyone who's posted so many questions, who's participated in this live Q&A. It was really fun. I'm going to try to continue doing this. Obviously, there's so many things that are changing within immigration constantly. And so these Canadian immigration live Q&As that myself, Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, I say all those things because that's really what's given me the background to be able to do these things. I've drawn from each of those areas of experience to try to bring forward these live Q&As in a way that really will add value to people who are just looking for a little help. As always, remember, myself and my team, we are here to help you. And if you are in a situation where you just don't know where to go, you don't know what to turn, and you have a specific question, you can always book a consultation with us. And I've shared this with you guys already. you can go to our firm website, which it looks like I've lost that page now, which is holthelaw.com. That's holthelaw.com. And just click on the Get Started button. Fill in the information here to book a consult. And in a very short period of time, I can put you back on track. Those of you who are really concerned about the money, concerned about, whether or not you can afford to hire a representative, that is why I created the Express Entry complete step-by-step course to doing it yourself. So understand, this is why I created it. And this course itself is chock full of individual lessons to help you navigate your whole way through this whole process. And so you'll see here that this course itself, and I've explained this in past live Q&As, but this course is chock full of lessons. In fact, if I jump here to the document section, I cover everything from, if I jump back here, I cover everything from the basics to preparing to submit your Express Entry profile, to then submitting it, how to do it, and then even how you complete your EAPR forms. So whether you have an ITA or not, whether you're wondering if you qualify, there's a section for all of you. The EAPR forms were unbelievably difficult to make because, guys, when I created this, I had to get permission from my clients to use their actual real EAPR.
All right, welcome back.
We are now. Sorry. I went in and actually was able to use my clients' information as a template when I'm doing these tutorials to help other people. But it was unbelievably difficult because I had to screen out their names, and I'm no expert at this stuff, but I had to go frame by frame by frame to make sure that all confidential information was removed from these videos when I created it. It took me hundreds of hours. I'm not even joking. It took me hundreds of hours to create this course. And so, so when it comes to these lessons, you can see there are so many. In fact, if I go to the very, very end here, uploading your documents, there are a total of 44 different lessons. There's actually probably more because some I had to create some new ones, like completing your biometrics, for instance. And so all of these individual lessons correspond to each of the individual sections. And then the final part that I'm super proud of, I wasn't going to build in every single answer to every person's question in these I shouldn't say generic, in these in the general section when I was telling people how to complete their profile. It just didn't make sense. I've got sections for principal applicants. I've got sections for if you have a spouse. We even have sections for dependent children if you have those. And so it covers all of those modules, but I don't go into depth about every single area. It's very deep. Each one of these are. That's why I created the member resource section. And so it is full of all of these different areas: general info, work experience, videos that are specific to your unique circumstance. For example, work experience, I have one on self-employed work experience. And so understand that each of these various lessons that I've created here are all designed to help you navigate your way through this process and to make it as helpful as possible to cover every area. So you can see language, eligibility, job offers, proof of funds, police clearances, dependent family, non-accompanying spouse. This video is all about how to complete the EAPR forms if your spouse is non-accompanying. Education, medicals, PNPs, other names, relatives in Canada, dependent children. You can see it goes on and on and on. And I've created these videos because if you're watching this on YouTube, yeah, a lot of the information might be the general information might be there in bits and pieces, but oh my goodness, trying to search through these hour-long videos is a whole different story. So understand this here is all for you guys. And I think Igor, if you haven't already, I'm going to have him post a coupon code that is available for all of you. And I'm going to click on here and I'm just going to pull this up. If you go to the courses and then purchase now, and I know Igor's going to put this up there. If you type in the code EEDIY50 and click apply, you who are watching this right now are going to get 50% off. $248.50 US is what it's going to cost. And so for those of you who are struggling, trying to figure out, oh, and I'm not even showing my screen here. I'll show it now, sorry. Those of you who go to the purchase section, I better jump back here so you know what I'm talking about here. So the main site here, if you land on it, and then you go right on the page, see our courses, And then from our courses, you click purchase now for the express entry one. It'll take you here. The regular price is $497 for that one-time access to this version of the course. If you punch in the coupon code EEDIY50 and click apply, it'll give you 50% off, and it will give you basically, like I said, half price at $248.50 to access the course. And so many of you who are just really suffering and are very cost conscious and wonder if you're even eligible, this is one of the best ways that you can educate yourself, especially if you've got time on your hands, okay? And there's nothing worse than having gone and spending all this money, your precious money, to get language tests, to get your educational credentials assessed, and you don't even qualify, and you don't have a chance of qualifying. That's heartbreaking, especially when you then hire a consultant who then takes your money, or some rogue agent who tells you, yeah, you're eligible for express entry, but the reality is you might be eligible to submit your application into the pool, but there's no chance you're ever going to get drawn. And so that I just wanted to bring up. All right, guys, I want to thank everybody once again for joining in. This was a great live Canadian immigration Q&A session. I'm so happy that everybody was able to participate, especially with this new feature, which was so cool, that allows me to show that allows me to show all of the different comments and things that people are posting. Looks like here, Canadian Immigration Institute, the link to the video about how mistakes can ruin your immigration. Okay, there it is right there for those of you. And I'm just looking to see if there's anything else that we can also post here. And I can see there's a lot of people who posted a lot of questions, and I want to apologize for not being able to, for not being able to answer everybody's questions. Let's see here. Our vendor says, Mark, how do we claim our price? If you were one of the victors who identified this location behind me as Toledo, Spain, Igor will be reaching out to you with your free access code to access the course. All right, guys. And looks like Igor has also posted the checkout where you can click on this link. Whether or not it's visible everywhere, it will be visible on the Facebook page. But for you YouTubers, this is also a location that you can go, or you can just type in the EEDIY50 into the coupon code, and that'll get you where you need to go. All right, guys. Thanks so much. It was an absolute pleasure being with you today. Stay tuned. Next week, I'm probably not going to be doing one because I'm going to be away from the office for just a little bit, having a little bit of a break with my family. And as I'm gone, don't hesitate to continue sending in questions. You can do that by sending a question to info@holthelaw.com right here. Remember, when you're typing in your question, you need to indicate that it's for your question relates to this live Q&A. And so I think what you're going to do from now on, because we're actually changing our, because it's no longer just an EE live Q&A, I'm going to add in, I'm going to tell you what you need to put here. All you have to do is this right here, and that will work for you right there. So all you need to do, it's kind of hard to see now. Maybe I should change the font color of this. I don't even know if I can do that. Oh, maybe I can. I will make it that. See if this works here. Okay. It's always entertaining with me trying to do things. Okay, that didn't help at all. Okay. Anyways, type in live Q&A into the email that you're sending to info@holthelaw.com. And then you have to get past Mauricia, my intake person, and then she'll consider whether or not your question is of general importance to all of the listeners, and then you'll be able to get your question answered that way as well. Otherwise, just join me on one of our platforms. Thanks for everybody who joined in on all the different platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. I appreciate it. It's because of you guys that all of these are possible, and you're the ones that add substance and life to them. So wishing you guys all safety and wellness as we all navigate this crazy world of COVID-19. Take care.